Ismail Johnson. My name is Lucy Osborne. Would you please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. And now, here's our superintendent, Dr. Hamilton.
Good morning all. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. Today marks a significant occasion in the history of Mount Vernon. One that would not have happened had not it been for the vision and foresight of our board president, Mr. Elias Goodside. Please join me in giving him. Before I ask Mr. Goodside to come up, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a few folks in the room this morning. First, members of the superintendent's cabinet, Mr. Ken Silver, our assistant superintendent, Mr. Dr. Jeff Gorman, our deputy superintendent assistant. Please stand, please. Our assistant superintendent for HR, Denise Gagnon-Kapewski. Denise, please stand. Mr. Joe McGrath, our director of technology. Anyone else from cabinet that I'm missing? And Dr. Gail White-Wallace, AKA Bubbles, please stand. Thank you. Members of the principals that are present, Mr. Doggett is present this morning, Dr. Jonathan Brown, thank you so much for being here. Board members that are present, Mrs. Darcy Miller is with us, and you'll hear from Mr. Goodside shortly. And before we go on, I'm going to ask Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson if she would just come up, please. Good to see you this morning, Senator.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Good morning.
Good morning.
I apologize for changing the structure of your program. I normally don't ask people to do that, but I have to tell you a secret. I'm going to interview for the mayor for the city of Mount Vernon at 11:30. And I gotta go. But I had to be here for this naming ceremony. It's a historic day. And for Rebecca and Turner, this is a very historic time in our bringing our past and our present together today in this educational center, which meant such a tremendous amount to them. And so I congratulate the committee, I congratulate our superintendent, and certainly our board of trustees. I have to tell you, it's been a very long time since I felt so good about the direction of our schools, where we're going, and who's going to help take us there. And I hope we all do the right thing on Tuesday and make sure that this cohesiveness that we've begun to develop continues to happen in our school board and and for our school district, because we've got an extraordinary group of children, and with all the fighting between the governor and teachers and unions and whatever, we have to stay grounded and remember that it's really always about the children. And it's about what we can do as a community to unite ourselves to ensure that we become a community school. Community-wide, not just one school, but this entire district must become a part of community engagement. And Darcy, I want to congratulate you because I attended a meeting where you presented, and it was one of the most cogent meetings and the most cogent presentation that I've heard from a board member in a very long time. And it was cogent and it was helpful and healing because it was not about the disparities and the problems, but about the possibilities. And I need to congratulate you and the board for what you've done to make that happen. So Dr. Hamilton, and to all of us who care about the children of the city of Mount Vernon, thank you for today, and thank you for indulging me and allowing me this opportunity to greet you this morning.
Trustee Brenda Crump just arrived. I do need to acknowledge her. Trustee Crump, good to see you this morning. And Trustee Frances Wynn, I understand, is in the room as well. Trustee Wynn, where are you? Good to see you this morning as well. Also, Omar McDowell, I didn't see you come in. Good to see you, Trustee McDowell. This morning, again, marks a significant history in our community. And we are trying to make history under this new administration by reclaiming what our children deserve, and that's a bright, prosperous future. And together we can make that happen. I have to applaud Dr. Spruill, whose 20 years of research on the Turner family has given us the foundation for what we're doing today. And this is something that our children will remember for the rest of their lives, to be a part of this, and I thank you for your indulgence. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Gutzeit if he would come up and share with us the framework for which this has been developed, and acknowledge Donna Jackson for her leadership on this as well.
We have a school district in transformation, right? We hired a new superintendent, and we used it not with a headhunter, but with stakeholders deciding on what they wanted and making the choices from the resumes that they liked. And I think this is another stage in that development. We're talking about rebranding buildings from Longfellow. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a great guy. He was a poet from the 19th century. But we need to look for local history, and this is going to become a center of local history for the county of Westchester. And what we're hoping for is to develop a relationship. St. Paul's Church has been here for 350 years, and the school district has finally found them. They're right down the street on South Columbus Avenue. And so, when I got hit by the car in 2006 crossing the street of Dyer Avenue and spent 3 weeks in the ICU, I realized no next day is promised. So when I got better and I got elected to the school board, I decided to make things happen as soon as I got here. And as soon as the board permitted me to be president, and then they permitted me to have a Saturday conference, and then permitted us to have a conversation with Dr. Spruill, with the community, about renaming the Longfellow schools. In October and in November, the board unanimously said, let's rename the school districts for the Turner family. And today, it happens. And what it means is that transformation can happen overnight because our community wants it and needs it and demands it. Thank you.
But now we will have a musical selection by the Longfellow Elementary School Singers. They will be singing Glory.
Braxton.
Can we give them another hand?
Yeah.
It's amazing when the babies understand it. At this time, I would like to bring forward Park Ranger Michael Callahan of the United States National Park Service and a representative from St. Paul's Church National Historic Site. Ranger Callahan.
Thank you, Donna, and thank the people of Mount Vernon for having me here today. On behalf of the United States National Park Service, again, thanks for having me here. I'd like to talk about local history, the importance of it. I look at history as steps in a ladder, the knowledge of history. It starts in the community here at Mount Vernon, then goes to Westchester County, then to the state of New York, and of course the United States as a whole. But with the knowledge of history comes that pride in your history. Being proud of what people have accomplished in the local area, such as Rebecca and Benjamin Turner. Very, very important. So what you're doing here today is a historic occasion, it is, but also a very, very important occasion. And make the young people realize that history is our own community, which in turn leads to pride in that community, your county, your state, and your country. So again, I applaud you for what you've done here today. It's very important what you've done. I'd also like to remind everybody that on October 1st of this year, the celebration will continue at St. Paul's Church, the National Historical Site. We're doing a wreath-laying ceremony for Rebecca Turner on that day. She, of course, rests in St. Paul's Church. And also, another reminder, next year, 2016, we have a birthday coming up. It's the 100th birthday of the United States National Park Service. And these are your parks. You have a park right close by here, right in your own area, St. Paul's Church. Please, take advantage. You've paid for it through your taxes. You support us in the past. Please continue to do so. And yes, you contribute with your taxes, but also every time you set foot on a national park, you are supporting us. So again, I'd like to thank you for your support of the Park Service. And I think that's my time at this point. Thank you very much. Hope to see you on October 1st and this year.
Good morning, Board Trustees, Superintendent, distinguished guests, and school community. My name is Jamal Doggett. I'm the proud principal of this building. I am also proud to be part of this historical moment for this school building. This is the first name change. Our building has been named after Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. This building was erected in 1929. So this is the first school name change, and I'm proud to be a part of it. But before I move on, I would like to acknowledge some of my staff members here. I have Ms. Raniski, my assistant principal. Will you please stand? Teamwork makes the dream work. I have Ms. Haywood. Parents and students, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Longfellow Elementary School has been preparing our school community for this renaming, and we're going to discuss some events that we have done in our school building so far. As you know, we are currently Longfellow Elementary School, and that is going to change. After today, we will be renamed the Rebecca Turner Elementary School. Our fourth grade students have been visiting St. Paul's National Historic Site, where they've been learning about the Rebecca Turner family, and they've been visiting the grave sites, and they will continue to do that in the fall. You can clap. During Black History Month, for the past 3 years, we have done a door decorating contest where students select a prominent African American and they write about them, and they have a door decorating contest each year. It's a school-wide initiative. This year, the door decorating focused on Benjamin and Rebecca Turner. Students have read the book When the Train Came and had a door decorating contest with a writing assignment, and they were judged and they have won, but I'm going to have the students speak about that in a few minutes. So at this time, I'm going to have Mael Johnson come and speak about it.
Our school read the book When the Train Came, written by Dr. Sproul. Benjamin Turner was a black slave that was freed in the 1800s. Once he was freed, Benjamin Turner obtained a piece of land near St. Paul's Church. He then married a woman named Rebecca, who was a businesswoman in a parish honor of Asbury Methodist Church, and then had 3 children. One day, Benjamin heard bells of a train coming in. He decided to wake up his children and take them to see the train along with the other townspeople. Once they got there, everybody was cheering and happy, but Benjamin was not. Tears began to pour out his eyes because he was afraid that they would take away his land as the town grew. However, they did not. As more and more trains came in with more people, the small town became the city of East Chester and Mount Vernon. I am looking forward to our school being renamed Rebecca Turner Elementary School in honor of the Turner family.
Next up, we have Giselle Stewart. He's going to talk about the door decorating contest briefly.
Rebecca Turner was a slave. She was freed from slavery and married Benjamin Turner. They owned land near the St. Paul's Church. They kept the land from about 1812 to 1937. My class and I decorated our door. First we put a train track on the door. Then we added pictures, a train, and summaries from the story. We really enjoyed doing this activity. We learned a lot.
As you can see, these are the 3 doors right here. We have Class 4C, Miss Casino. They won the classroom prize this year. Class 2H came in 2nd place. And Class Pre-KP came in 3rd place, and they all received the pizza party. We do this every year, and one of our judges, who's the Deputy Commissioner of Recreation, Ms. Atkins is here. She's been part of our door decorating contest, so give her a round of applause. Always great when we invite the community in. Also, our art teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, we designed a new school logo, which we have up there, which we're looking to get on letterhead in the fall. And our school currently is raising funds so that each child receives Rebecca Turner Elementary School apparel for the fall. So we have our ribbon cutting the 1st day of September. We want all our students in uniform and shirt. We also put out a survey to change the school colors. Our school colors are currently navy blue and yellow. They will be gray and purple in the fall. And at this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Brown, principal of Longfellow Middle School, for his student presentation.
Good morning, everyone. As the principal of the current Longfellow Middle School, I'm extremely proud to turn over the microphone to my young people who dedicated their Saturday morning to talking to you about their experiences going through the name change. This name change for us is about 2 things. It's about recognizing our history, and it's most importantly about being proud of being a citizen of this great city of Mount Vernon. At this time, I'm going to ask the leader of our ambassadors program, Mr. Gregory Vandekar, to come forward. And as he comes forward, I'm going to introduce to you the 30 young people who represent our school at all public functions as leaders and role models for their peers. Those young people, and please come up once I call your name: Jada Brooks, Demario Moody, Solomon Cleary, Davon Jackson, Joni Lugo, Kayla Murray, Emery Peralta, Dante Richards, Abigail Robinson, Kamisha Samuels, Michaela Rose, Deanna Scott, Matea Alcide, Michael Bahari, Kiara Diaz, Britannia Dunbar, Renika Gray, Kalinda Jonti, Magdalene McCoy, Shania Rabindranath, Elena Weston, Amethyst Burgos, Anaya Dalton, Demetria Desir Franco, Chanel Howard, Prince Hewitt, Martinez John Claude, and Jewel Phillip. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the best and brightest of Longfellow Middle School.
Good morning, everyone. So the Longfellow Middle School, we started a bachelor program this year. It's a brand new program, and it kind of came from the idea of student government. Student government is the voice, student government is more or less the voice of what Longfellow Middle School was. The ambassadors are the actual faces. They're the public figures that are actually coming forward and doing a lot of things in the school. So they were actually influential in creating our project. They had control over setting up the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade projects, so they did a little research ahead of time. So not only they're controlling what's going on in the building, but they actually are controlling what's going on in some classrooms, so it's really great. So we have a couple of speakers that are going to be forward today to speak about what projects they've done and how they've done it. So we're going to have Demario Lee, Jada, and Don, and Deanna is going to speak today.
Good morning. Good morning. I believe everyone knows why we're here today. I mean, we're here for the name changing for the middle school, Longfellow Middle School, which will become Benjamin Turner Middle School, and the elementary school, which is Longfellow Elementary School, that will become Rebecca Turner Elementary School. Now, I haven't been in Mount Vernon for a long time, but I knew it was a very, very wonderful place. And I always saw how the community and the students worked together and tried to achieve the best. And I found out how great this town and city was back in the day, and it still is. And the fact that the media tries to keep on singling out Mount Vernon was sort of hurtful to everybody, I believe, in the community. And I thought the fact that the name changing with the elementary school and the middle school will not only probably boost the morale of the community, but also the African American cultural. I mean, Longfellow was a great person. He was a famous poet at the time, so that's why these schools were named after him when these schools were constructed. But Benjamin Turner, who was an actual citizen of this area at St. Paul's Church, was actually someone who meant something to this actual community. He started off as a New York slave, and rose from that and became just a grave digger at that church where many people were buried. But nonetheless, he still was a very honest person who always believed in the right way, and as an African American who came from slavery, knew many things that some people didn't know. Because, as you know, if you've been through hardships, you will get wiser and smarter from all your past experiences. And I'm just here to thank you all for taking your time on even a Saturday, which I know a lot of people don't want to be here, but it's really great that you guys still came to honor the fact that these schools and in Mount Vernon, that everyone will be achieving higher now with this name change and with a whole new image for the new Longfellow Middle School and a new Longfellow Elementary School, which is now Benjamin Turner and Rebecca Turner Schools.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, my name is Jada Brooks, and I'm here today to speak with you about the Longfellow Middle School and Longfellow Elementary School name change. Well, the middle school will be, as Mr. Demario just said, it will be changed to Benjamin Turner, and the elementary will be changed to Rebecca Turner. Well, I feel that this is a very good decision that we're changing our school names, because Benjamin Turner and Rebecca Turner were two really important people who did not get the recognition they deserved. So now that they're changing the names, I feel like it's giving them and showing them the respect and what they deserve. So So basically what I'm saying, I think it's a really good idea to change the name of the school, although Longfellow was a very good person. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Deanna Stott, and I'll just be talking to you a little bit about the Benjamin Turner project that we've been doing over one of our breaks. All right, so for the ambassadors, we split us up into 3 groups before the 7th and 6th graders were there. And it was just the 8th graders, so we split us up into 3 groups and we tackled the 8th grader project, the 7th grader project, and the 6th graders project. So for my group, we did the 6th graders project, and what we had to do was make a poster about Benjamin Turner, explain to him a little bit about his backstory, where he came from, what he was really about. And then for the research project, we had to explain a little bit about his backstory more, and his wife, Rebecca Turner, and everything that he did and everything that he was known for, and that's why we were renaming him for our Longfellow Middle School. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to the ambassadors for coming here today. As you see here, if you visit our school, you'll see in the main hallway, you'll see the actual exemplar project the students created. Some of the students are here today. So thank you, ambassadors.
As our young people return to the seats, it's with great pride that I recognize the fact that I have students here today that are not part of the presentation. And that speaks volumes, because how many 13 and 14-year-olds do you know that are out of bed and doing something positive to represent their city and their school? So to all my young people who are here today, I won't put you on the spot, but I see you. Thank you for being here. In addition to that, we know that for educators, Saturdays are worth their weight in gold, right? And I have a handful of teachers who are here in spirit, but I have some that are here in the flesh as well. So please stand for recognition, Mr. Starling Churn. Longfellow Middle School has a very rich history in that this will be its umpteenth name change. Many of the teachers in my school have been together for 2 decades or more. And when they started out as Nichols Middle School. And then they became Franco Middle School. And then they moved across campus and across town and became Longfellow Middle School. And part of that legacy is represented here in one of the former principals of this school, Mr. Ralph Burtz, being in the audience. Mr. Burtz. And in preparing for this name change, my secretary, Diane McGowan, and a parent volunteer, Terry Robeson, put together this display, which is on the screen. And if you have the time to visit Longfellow Middle School, you're welcome at any time. There is displays of information here from the early 1920s. And we went through our archives and put together a walk through the history of our school, and it's culminating in this wonderful name change, which will hopefully be its last. To commemorate the change, we decided to acknowledge part of what our upcoming future is, which is our conversion to a performing arts magnet school. And we recognize that we have a number of young people who have talents that are not necessarily rooted in the subjects of science, English, math, and social studies, but in the arts as well. And we were very blessed this year to receive Ms. Bdmv in a transfer from A.B. Davis to Longfellow Middle School. And without talking about her work, I'm just going to show you what she and several students took the time to do during the state testing days. What may not be obvious to you is that this is a 20-foot by 15-foot mural. It's gigantic, and it represents the presence of Mr. Turner in our lives today as a school community going forward. This painting has been covered and will be unveiled when we open school again in the fall as a formal recognition of our name change. I want to recognize both Ms. New and one of our special educators, Ms. White, for leading this activity with some of our students who gave of their own time. And those students are Tamar Joseph, Sharon Josephs, Shireen Josephs, Tiana Beckford, Naeja Gauze, Ashanti Palmer, Kiana Mitchell, Alina Weston, Messiah Brown, and Diamond Spade. Having our students take ownership of the school is my primary responsibility. Principals come and go, but the students live forever. And having their input on decisions that directly impact the school was a critical aspect of this name change. This mural was one aspect, but designing our new logo was another aspect that we're currently working on. 4 students have been chosen as finalists for their logo submissions, and the final logo will be unveiled when school opens in the fall. But I want to give you a preview of the murals. If you're interested in voting, please visit the Longfellow Middle School website. The poll is still open, but will be closing in the next few days. These logos will be digitized and ultimately embroider the apparel of our school, book bags, and other materials. Please take a moment and recognize that our young people are creative, talented, and totally invested in recognizing that Mount Vernon is something to be very proud of. Thank you very much for your time this morning. It is my honor to speak to you about this historic occasion.
I'm telling you, I'm in awe of what I see in Mount Vernon. Just in awe. We are on the verge of really turning this place around, and this is just an example of where we are and where we're going. And imagine all the other talent within the boundaries of Mount Vernon that we have yet to even capture. So I'm just so, as my grandmother would say, I'm tickled pink about where we are as a community. I need to acknowledge a couple of folks who just came in as well. One is Assemblyman Pretlow, who has been a great friend to Mount Vernon. Thank you so much. Lyndon Williams, please stand up. I can't see that far. Francis, when I got her earlier, good to see you again. At this time, I am honored. I had an opportunity to travel to Atlanta and have lunch with Dr. Larry Sproul. And I was so blown away at the wealth and the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge that this gentleman possessed. I could sit and talk to him forever. What he represents in terms of the history of Mount Vernon and his commitment to restore Mount Vernon and to make this history a part of what our children know and understand, because it's important that our children know where they come from in order for them to really make choices and decisions about where they're going and what they plan to become. And this gentleman has been so committed to this. I am honored to introduce to some and present to others Dr. Larry Sproul.
I especially want to express my gratitude to Principal Doggett and Principal Dr. Brown for their invitation and warm reception to the Benjamin and Rebecca Turner Educational Park this morning or afternoon. I also want to thank the Board of Education for their support for this long-awaited rededication, and I want to thank Elias Goodside for believing in this effort for many, many years. You know, this was first proposed in 2003 when the new building was built. I proposed it, and it didn't get very far, but it takes people of action and people of faith who really understand what this community needs. To the end of my days, I will be a son of Mount Vernon, New York. I am a South Sider. and grew up in and around this neighborhood we call the Educational Park. We used to call it School 14. This is where we played sandlot football, and as a boys club Pop Warner football player, this was our practice field right back out here. My entire K-12 education was provided by our public school system. It did a good job on me. The schools and teachers and staff nurtured me and sent me on life's journey as a professional historian. From fifth grade to the present, history has always been my passion and what I always wanted to do. Mount Vernon schools have been good to me. That's okay, because it's been good to a lot of people. As a kid from humble beginnings at Levis Towers to my current position at Morehouse College, I've always been thinking about Mount Vernon, these 4 square miles. What makes it so unique? I've had many memorable teachers in our school system. I am so honored and proud to stand here as your speaker today. In 1983, I was awarded a PhD in American history. My professors had great hopes and expectations for me in the academy. However, I had a different plan for my life. I was determined to use my doctoral training at Mount Vernon High School. Yes, a PhD going back to a local high school, they couldn't talk me out of it. To the dismay of my doctoral committee, I declined assistant professorships at a host of small New England liberal arts colleges and came home to Mount Vernon and accepted a position as a social studies teacher at Mount Vernon High School out on California Road. A decision I've never regretted. In my spare time and summers and school holidays, I began researching and writing about our local history. In 1984, while in the Mount Vernon Public Library, I came across a 1963 retrospective Daily Argus story. Those of you who don't know Daily Argus, that's our former newspaper. We won't talk about them today. It was about a 1933 land foreclosure along Eastchester Creek, across from Pelham, near the Bronx and Mount Vernon border. The article stated that from 1818 until 1906, the disputed land in question allegedly belonged to, and I'm going to say this, Benjamin Turner, a Negro squatter. That's all it said. Benjamin Turner, a Negro squatter. I read the clipping several times, and there was something unsettling about the tone of the news article. The writer was making fun of the idea of a Negro owning land on the banks of Eastchester Creek. The land was affiliated with a grant from King James, the former Duke of York, from whom we get New York. It was part of a royal tract passed on to his daughter, Her Majesty Queen Anne of England, who gave it to the second generation of the original settlers of Eastchester, which is now part of Mount Vernon, New York. My question was, what in heavens would Benjamin Turner, a Negro, have to do with British kings and queens and the founding local pilgrims of this community? As a young historian, I intuitively believed that there was more to this story. Something fishy was going on here. So for the next 2 weeks in 1984, I began searching for the who, what, why, when, where of Benjamin Turner's life. In fact, another local historian told me that Benjamin Turner was not a Negro. I said, okay. Her rationale was that in 1818 there could not have been a Negro living on or owning land that close to St. Paul's Church and the Village Green. That's a term the students need to learn, the Village Green. That's what, right in front of St. Paul's Church, that was called the Village Green. That was like the center of the town. That's where you posted notices on the church door. That's where people got punished for crimes. It was the center of the community. And Ben lived right near there. Her rationale was strange to me. She told me that Benjamin Turner was probably not black. The doubtful historian told me that my pursuit of the Turner story was not worth the effort, and the story had no credibility, and proving it was an impossible task. For that historian, the Benjamin and Rebecca Turner story, as we have come to know it, was a fantasy and a fable. It was just too good to be true. That was 30 years ago. Sometimes you have to go with a historical hunch. All I had was a name, his race, and his questionable occupancy and ownership of a piece of choice real estate. That's all I had. There were many unanswered questions. This is how my 3-decade-long quest to resolve the Benjamin and Rebecca Turner mystery began. They were dead. They were buried. They were obscured. They were out of sight. No one knew anything about them. Weeks of part-time research rolled into months, years, and decades. The genealogical and historical work was conducted long before the digital era of Ancestry.com. The fundamental and foundational documents were scratched out the old-fashioned way, from one dusty archive and a single paper document at a time. The recovery of the name of Benjamin's wife, Rebecca Turner, was the key to unraveling this epic story of their lives and extended family, as well as the unlocking of the mystery and invisibility of the black community in colonial and early Eastchester. I had no idea that it would consume my personal and professional life in the way it has. There have been dozens of nights and days when I questioned myself and often decided to quit and let someone else pick up where I left off and finish writing these missing African-American pages of our public history. But I could not let go because the ancestors wouldn't let me. The ancestors, Benjamin and Rebecca, and especially their granddaughter, whose name we should all come to know. Her name was Sarah Elizabeth, I call her Libby Nelson. And I'm sure all the students will get to know her name over time. Sarah Elizabeth Nelson. I call her Libby. She was my girlfriend. She died in 1941, born in 1852. Because she would come to me and talk to me about this story. And my wife knew it. You know, she was cool with it. You know, I kept a journal next to my bed at night because when I ran into a brick wall on this story, you know, she would say, oh, no, look here, look there. You know, and I believe to this day that that was her mission in life. I can't talk about her today because it's a huge story. And so she would not rest until I finished my life's mission to tell this great, triumphant, and tragic story. It's an American story of captive New Yorkers moving from slavery to freedom, to land ownership and full citizenship. Today, I propose to this distinguished assembly that the critical ingredient in modern public and social history is its capacity to resurrect neglected, lost, and long forgotten peoples entombed in earthen and archival burial grounds. Bring them into new historical life. Let us consider the timeline of Benjamin and Rebecca Turner. Ben and Becky, as I call them, were born before and during the American Revolution. Benjamin died in 1832. Rebecca died in 1872. But Rebecca witnessed the Civil War and the national abolition of slavery. Sarah, or Libby Nelson, born in 1852, lived through World War I, the 1930s Great Depression, and died in 1941, 4 months before Pearl Harbor and our onset into World War II. The three Turner Nelsons spanned every American president, from George Washington to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They are authentic Americans who also made their contributions to rural, suburban, and urban Eastchester and Mount Vernon. There is a Pelham school named Anne Hutchinson who lived between 1591 and 1643, and for whom the River and Parkway are named. If you survey citizens as to who she was and what was her legacy, you would be surprised by the number of people who still do not know her contributions to local history. What we have today is not just an obligation to rename and rebuild an elementary, middle school curricula, but we have the opportunity to know that we are fortunate to have a rich body of documented research and a major historical treasure at our back door. St. Paul's Church and Cemetery National Historic Site, which both Ben and Rebecca were intimately connected, is in our back door. It is a national treasure. We're about maybe 200 yards from there right now. So today, this is more than a renaming of two schools. It is also the formal ritual of the resurrection of the lives of Benjamin and Rebecca Turner into historical life. We're going to raise the dead, you're right. We're involved in miracle work, you know. It is also a down payment on the reparations due to them on the unethical taking of their homestead and land by the city of Mount Vernon. This is a new beginning. As we recognize and celebrate the renaming of these two schools, we are doing something that many said would never happen. This family of former African captives and later land-owning freedmen is not merely an African-American story, but be sure it is a great American story. I come today to say thank you to the decades of believers, those who saw the fragments of documentary truth slowly emerge to become a beautiful mosaic portrait of a New York town, city, and county that had no place in the history books of our city. So before I go any further, I want to thank the doubters and the naysayers. You can't say the haters, you know. Because they have had to come around over a long period of time to realize that this is an important, not just Mount Vernon story, but a nationally important story. There will be great national attention given to this project. And after 30 years, I feel like a prophet now. So take my word for it. You can take it to the bank. Today is a milestone in the renaissance of Mount Vernon schools. This occasion represents tangible evidence of a new sense of maturation about teaching and learning in our city. I am so glad to be here to take part in this great renaming ceremony and celebration. We have chosen a long-forgotten family of enslaved residents that rose from New York slavery into freedom through interracial cooperation, hard work, moral decency, land ownership, and faith in their Almighty God. The Turners, in spite of slavery and discrimination, successfully embraced the American creed of equal access to life, liberty, and opportunities to prosper. Their story is not just an African-American story, but also a great New York story. As of today, we know more about the Turner Nelsons than most white families from our community. We are now responsible to continue to study and teach and learn about the times and conditions in which they lived in these 4 square miles. According to New York State educational policies, we are obligated to talk about those who came around, who lived here, down by the creek, St. Paul's Church, and along Boston Post Road. They are part of our local history. And finally, the educational and community services spin-offs from the resurrection of Ben and Becky, they are enormous. Eastchester Creek interconnected their lives with the once beautiful and bucolic environment of this town. It has been polluted, scarred, defaced, and damaged by runaway urbanization, industrialization, and human abuse. You would not want to put your toe in Eastchester Creek. You'd be afraid it would fall off. As the students breathe new life into this early American black family, it will be confronted with the death and destruction of the river and its tributary we call Eastchester Creek. This environmental disaster extends out into the once fertile wetlands, reaching out into Eastchester Bay and Pelham Bay, where we now see Co-op City sitting on top of those former wetlands. They will have to develop, these students will have to develop concern and confront our neighborhood's past environmental splendor. Once with lush forests and waterways full of fish and oysters and lobster. Students will not only look at the past lives of Ben and Becky, but the present ecological and environmental condition of the land and stream near their former homestead. We here at Longfellow, now Turner Education, we are in the heart of all of this historical and environmental potential to make a difference, not only in Mount Vernon, but in the county, but in the state, and of course, our nation. Turner Educational Park students, listen to me carefully, teachers, can take their STEM education to new levels of engagement as junior environmental scientists and activists, their youthful voices echoing the lost found Turner family and people of African descent living and laboring right here, even before there was a United States of America, even before there was a sovereign state of New York, and definitely before there was a city of Mount Vernon. Their efforts here will be a powerful indication of a new surge of effective teaching and learning in our city. This is just the beginning of an exciting time to be a teacher, a student, an educational leader down by the creek in Mount Vernon. So let us fully embrace the Turner story with all of its complexities, and it will distinguish these 2 schools and our school district as centers of educational excellence, Today is the formal beginning of a new day, a rebirth, a renaissance of the Mount Vernon School District, and God bless you.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Spruill, because I don't have to go to church tomorrow now. I've already had my Sunday service. I am just so thankful, and so on behalf of the thousands of children who will walk through the doors of the Benjamin Turner and Rebecca Turner schools, who you may never meet, who may never even know your name, but will be forever blessed by your research in the 30 years of your life that you dedicated to this project, I thank you in advance. And before we close out, I have to acknowledge our principals, Mr. Doggett and Dr. Brown, for your commitment and dedication. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Gutzeit. This would not have happened if it was not for you. I don't believe that anything is coincidental. My arrival in Mount Vernon was not by coincidence, but by divine intervention. And when I said to Donna one day that I was heading, I had to go to Atlanta, she said, you gotta take some time to meet Dr. Spruill while you were there, and she made the connection for us. And my life will always be influenced by that conversation we had in Atlanta that day, and I thank you for that. Okay, at this time I'm going to ask our Mayor Davis, if you would just come up and have a word, please, sir. Did he dash out? Oh, he must have dashed out. All right, we are going to have the unveiling of the rendering of the new signage, and then we're going to ask our board members who are part of this name change for a photo op that will adore the walls of our school for eternity, because you were a part of the group that made this happen. You passed the resolution that created this name change, and it will be a part of this history as well. So this is, Donna, do me a favor, and just flip this around. We have ordered new signage that will grace the walls of the Benjamin and Rebecca Turner School, Benjamin and Rebecca Turner Schools, and this will be a part of what our children will see upon their arrival in September, when we have the official ribbon cutting and the unveiling of that incredible mural that has been painted at the middle school. Please, this is what our children will see. Mr. Gutzeit, would you please give us closing remarks?
I heard Dr. Hamilton say this is a beginning. I heard Dr. Spruill say this is a beginning. The way people live on once they're no longer here is we keep speaking about them. And we need to keep speaking again about the Turners. I'm hoping that this is a new life for us, that we have a friend at Morehouse. Maybe there's some AP courses or a relationship that Mount Vernon School District should have with the historically black colleges out of Atlanta. We're always talking about the school to, you know what, link, but I would like to see the school to Atlanta link for Mount Vernon. And I think we all need to put that together. So the next step in this ride is not only to recognize Turner, but to recognize that all of our children are college bound and have great potential. I I'd like to recognize Lyndon Williams and Assemblyman Fretlow and all of the legislators and the mayor who was here. And the people in the room, if you want this to continue, you want the transformation to happen as quickly as we made this happen this year, we all need to be speaking to them to make sure the world doesn't forget Mount Vernon either. Thank you.
We thank everybody for attending. We are going to take a group photo. I need all of my teachers, my elected officials, my trustees to please come forward. We'll surround the rendering and just take a really great group shot so we can get your Twitter and your Facebook and all of that ready. Come on up, everybody. Thank you.